I arrived here in November of 2020, so it's actually been 2 years, and it feels a lot longer. I feel at home. I've assimilated into Seoul quite well. I've made a nice group of friends. The people are very warm, so it does feel longer than the 2 years that I've been here. For me, it's not just at a cultural level, but at a really tangible level, deepening the relationship between Kenya and Korea, expanding the exchange between, the people-to-people exchanges, expanding the level of trade, certainly our capacity to trade more, because if you look at the trade levels right now, and this is not abnormal, considering you have high-tech value commodities, and we are mostly agricultural, but there will always be a trade imbalance. What I would like to see is more Korean investment in Kenya and more Korean investment in Africa as a whole. And I say this because the cost of living here is high. The cost of labor is high. You have the population challenges that we're talking about. We have the exact reverse. We have this very, very, very large youth population, easily trainable, low cost in terms of affordability, and we have the land. We have every ingredient you're possibly looking for to export your factories, for us to do the uptake. And in the process here, you help us overcome some of the challenges we're having as relates to global, carbon emissions. So that is what I would like to see, more Korean investment in Kenya. That will take more Koreans to Kenya. We will understand each other a lot more. That will create employment. It will help boost not just our economic well-being, but also our security status. Because when you have a large youthful population that is unemployed, it opens up a myriad of other challenges that we would like to avoid. We're a sanctuary, we're a haven of peace in the region, and we would like to remain such. I think by and large we're one of the smaller diasporans here. We've got an average of 450. Over 90% of them are students. Students who, thanks to the generosity of the Korean government through institutions such as KOICA, and to individual universities. We have had quite a few of our daughters and sons sponsored here, and then they come in. Sometimes they come in for their bachelor's, for their undergraduate studies. They get masters. Some of them are PhD students, and then some of them get mainstreamed here and find employment. We also have an increasing number of Kenyans who are intermarrying with Koreans. Lovely. And creating these just absolutely gorgeous children. And we're seeing that as a growing trend both here and in Kenya. And I expect as we integrate a lot more naturally, you will see a lot more of that. At a cultural level, we are really similar in how we tend to our families. Our sense of kinship, our habits are a lot more similar than most Koreans would imagine. And we, the diaspora is slowly growing, as is yours in Kenya. Right. The best way I can answer this is, in the past 4 months, BTS had a concert in Busan. I had a niece who knows every single dance move. And when I say every single dance move, I literally mean that, of K-pop. She flew from Nairobi to come to join me. I was actually her chaperone. I was her chaperone to the BTS concert. Following that, I had another young lady come to Korea. One of my friend's daughters came with her mother. This was a high school child. All she's ever been doing for the past 2 years is she's obsessed with Korea. She wanted to come here. We have Korean restaurants in Nairobi, but that wasn't good enough. She wanted to come to Korea to eat Korean snacks in Korea, to experience K-beauty in Korea. So her mother brought her. Following that, I had somebody else. The other day, I had a 13-year-old from my county, accompanied by her 2 siblings and the parents, because just like the others, she watches K-drama, she likes K-pop, she's aware of K-beauty, she's 14 years old, and her father promised her that if she did well in school, if she got her scores at the end of the term where they should be, he would bring everybody to Korea. That's just in the past 4 months. I think that answers the broader question. Now, for me, the issue is opening it up, expanding it even further. The cultural diplomacy that Korea is engaged in is phenomenal. I mean, globally, everybody. I didn't know who BTS, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know who BTS was. I didn't know if it was a football team, or I didn't know what it was. Of course, now I can sing Dynamite. I watch Korean movies like everybody else. So you've exported your cultural diplomacy, and we would like you to learn a lot more about Kenya than you currently do. The average Korean knows about our coffee, knows about our safaris, but they don't know that we have the most amazing beaches. They don't know about, the restaurants and the nature, just how cosmopolitan our cities are, and how much fun especially the younger generation would have, because we've got a vibrant, buzzing nightlife. And it's a safe place. Right. So I would love to see a lot more traffic, a lot more younger traffic headed to Kenya. I'd like to see more movies featuring Kenya in Korea, because I think we have a lot in common, and the stereotypes that most Koreans have in their mind, beginning with the fact that, oh, Africa's so far away, are something that we should make a thing of the past. So let's start with breakfast. And since you mentioned coffee, let me actually state that your average Kenyan is a tea drinker, not a coffee drinker. We are, of course, we're synonymous with coffee here, but we are the world's, give or take, largest exporter of black tea. Virtually all the tea that you will have, and I don't care which brand, Twinings, whichever brand you have, whether it's English breakfast or Earl Grey, whatever it is, chances are 90% plus of the tea in that tea bag is actually Kenyan tea. So we start off with tea, and we drink tea throughout the day. We stop at 10 o'clock to have tea. At 4 o'clock we have tea, and we take our tea extremely seriously. We make it more like the Indians do this, and this is where the cultural influences come in. We use milk because, of course, as a former British colony, we put, but they put a little splash of milk, right? So we have this splash of milk in more your high-end restaurants, but in our homes we cook it like the Indians. We make chai, and we even put tea masala. In terms of the food itself, depending on who you're talking to, some people just like the traditional food. They'll have a sweet potato and maybe some greens, just like the Koreans, balancing, trying to stay a little light on the carbs, but eating a nutritionally balanced diet. In the mornings, we don't really eat meat. We don't have a full meal or soups like the Koreans do, which, by the way, if there's one thing now I have grown attached to, it's having soup for breakfast. It's warm, it's wholesome, it's comforting, it's fantastic. But then our foods also vary depending on the ethnic group that you come from. Those who live along water bodies have access to fish. In my area, I come from a very remote, arid, semi-arid area where we struggle with drought, such as right now. So we really have a difficult time just planting anything, beginning with vegetables. So we bring in more vegetables from other counties, but we grow largely maize and beans. Very rudimentary, very simple dish. The coastal area has a lot more influence from Persia, from India, from Arabia, because we're on the East African, we're on the coast, the Indian Ocean. So their food will tend to have a lot more rice, a lot more spices, cardamom, cinnamon. The foods themselves, the naan, we call it chapati. Indians also call it chapati. We have pilau, that's also Indian, with curries. Because it's along the coast and we've got coconut, we have coconut milk in a lot of our cuisine. So the food is it's extremely diverse. It's got the Arabic influence, it's got the Portuguese influence, it's got English influence, it's got German influence, and then obviously it's got the landscape also determining what ingredients are available, not just accessible, but affordable as well. So it's a mishmash, and they can expect in any city. If you want a French restaurant, you've got a bunch you can choose from. You want some duck confit, you will find it. You want a fantastic spaghetti vongole, you've got a good choice of Italian restaurants. And as a matter of fact, the best spaghetti vongole I have had in the world is in a small little restaurant in Nairobi, and I really mean that. Fantastic Indian food. You want sushi, it's there. Koreans need to understand they can come to Nairobi, and not just Nairobi, but the more developed cities, including Mombasa. Seafood galore, amazing lobster. And then, should they choose to have Korean food, we also have fantastic Korean restaurants. Yeah. I've worn many different hats, and I believe in life in cycles of about 5 years. You know, you've got to get out of your comfort zone to grow. And when we confine ourselves to just one career or, just a certain kind of cuisine, we deprive ourselves of the richness, the abundance of wonderful experiences that exist out there and are, just waiting for us to tap. By far, whereas I've had, lots of professional engagements, each of which has been satisfying in its own way, by far one of the best things, in fact, the best thing I have ever done is have my sons. They are the greatest gift that I have, and I say that taking note of the fact that I do not believe that children are for everybody. You don't have to have a child to be supportive of children. You can adopt, or you can also help society in different ways. Not everybody is fulfilled by that experience. But I think that overall, it helps ground you, and it opens up your world to being more about the universe and not just you. You have something greater to live for than just the next shopping excursion or vacation. You're accountable to somebody. You have this great responsibility of shaping somebody. And it is possible to be a fantastic parent. I try to be a great parent. Now, what my children say about me is I think they would agree, but who knows? And hold a career down. It is possible to balance it. Millions of women across the world do it. Is it challenging? Yes. The balance is what is difficult. There will be frustrating moments where you will miss your child's soccer match because you've got to work late or you've got to be out of town. So you will not be perfect. You won't be the best at everything all the time. But overall, to go through life with a box that belongs to, the universe itself as a citizen of the globe, to be a parent, it's as demanding as being a child, because we've got responsibilities to our parents too. and then work. I think, that grows you, and it makes you a productive member of society, which we all try to be. My advice to the young, smart, global citizens that I'm increasingly meeting who are Korean women is take what you have and expand it. You can be all that. You can decide to have one child, hold a career. You can decide to switch the career. You can decide to be hybrid. You can work from home and perhaps go into the office X number of times a day. Pick a career path that is not work, that is not laborious, something that's enjoyable and that also gives you the flexibility to do the other things that are fulfilling at a personal level. It can be done. Well, let me first point out that one of the similarities that Kenya and Korea have is the institution KAIST. The Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. The K in our case is Kenya. And I was surprised to find that only about 15% of the student body was female. That was the biggest shock that I got when I arrived in Korea. Now, in contrast, we have really, both in law and otherwise, tried to mainstream women into society in terms of promoting gender, equity. Like every other society, we're finding that our younger women want to marry later in the day. They want to have their children later in the day. They want to have fewer children than our parents had, or people of my generation had. And this is being linked to independence. And I think this is where the fallacy lies, because you were not foregoing independence by having a job. You're not foregoing independence by having a family. I think all these things, collectively and independent of each other, make you more wholesome. So the journey that younger women are taking, I think, are in the long term a little harmful to society, actually, because we need countries such as Korea to grow. You see all these buildings, you see this depth of intellect and investment in R&D, and just so much focus on Korea as it now goes on this path to development, and you now are developed. If you don't ensure that there is continuity, then what happens to Korea? So Kenya's not different in that sense. And we're encouraging our daughters to strike that balance. Don't wait until it's too late to get married. Don't wait until it's too late to have children, should you decide that family is important to you. Because, our bodies are, they're engines. The longer you wait, it causes, a whole multitude of other complications that come with it. It's not just Korean. I don't think it's just Asian. I think it's actually a global phenomenon. I'd really like to say that it was something that was planned, but it was not. I think had I planned it, I probably would have shied away from it, because it ended up being such a tremendous amount of responsibility. HIV is not today what it used to be. HIV swept through quite a few countries in Africa and did a lot of damage, robbing us of really the rich base that, the youth, the ones who are just starting out their life, starting off families. And then saddling, unfortunately, these elderly grandparents who are just looking forward to, sitting on the veranda doing nothing, with upwards of 6+ grandchildren. So I don't typically believe in big parties for small children. I took my firstborn to Kenya for his first birthday. And there were all these obituaries. We're very big about obituaries. There are all these obituaries. This was, of course, before social media became what it is. Now you have maybe fewer obituaries than we did before. And because of the stigma that was attached to HIV, everybody died of this mysterious long illness, long-born illness. So that was the first sign that something was wrong. And then I went to the village. Like I said, I come from an impoverished community. And I just said to my dad, you know, I don't have much, but let me just pick a handful of people that can come and I can just give them a little food and I'll go back and mind my own business, you know, living my life. And the people who came, I remember two of my grandmothers, if you will, showed up, and one had lost 4 children and had been left with, 6 grandchildren. And we're talking women in their 70s. My back aches right now. You can imagine a 70-something-year-old woman carrying, you know, maybe even twins, one in front and in the back. And then the challenge of feeding them, and the sleep deprivation, you know, where do you source school fees? And I had a 1-year-old. And the question, of course, was, yes, I have a husband, but enough of those people who have left orphans were, you know, heterosexual couples. One got sick, the other got sick, and they left these children. What would happen? And who's going to tend to these children? Somebody needs to lend a hand, and I can't do it alone. So I started asking my friends, you know, can you help out? There's this kid that needs help. And, you know, it came to a point where my friends did not want to come over because I was so passionate about this and so consumed by it. I lived, slept, and, you know, it consumed me. I would shake their pockets. And then it just wasn't sustainable. So I had to incorporate it and form an organization and start putting in proposals for donor grants. And then it snowballed. And I can proudly and very humbly say that all I was really was a vehicle, because the resources have been channeled through me and the organization to help these children. Yes, there have been tremendous sacrifices on my part and that of my family, but the engine has been all those people who have come to the table and sponsored a child's education, a child they'll never meet. Some have, but some have not. And I thank God that there are so many different organizations, including in Korea, that carry out charitable missions in Kenya, in Africa, and around the world. And entities, even government entities, that, you know, sponsor and liaise with organizations such as mine, because the government cannot do everything, nor can you know, society. But where there's a collaboration between the two, I think we help each other fill the gaps where they exist. And it's been a very fulfilling journey for me, which has been a blessing. And I think the onus is on us when you have a little more than you really need, to just give somebody who has a little less something, just a little boost. It transforms a life, and then they can bless it forward. It means our children. Twana is children. Twitu is ours. And with the T, it is small children. But we also have Siana. Siana is still children, but largely, older children. In my language, it's funny because you've got the T's, the S's. You also have, say, the M's and the K's. For instance, Motanu. Motanu is a name. It's a female name, which is given to somebody who's happy. Kotana is happy. So Motanu means you are happy. But when you're trying to make it endearing, you make it Katanu. In fact, my sister was called Katanu. So it makes it, so when you say Katanu, it adds a nice fuzzy feeling. And so Twana, even though, of course, you know, some of those Twana Twitu members are, you know, teenagers and people over the age of 18, we still look at them in an endearing way. Well, first of all, I'm fascinated by K-beauty. I'm fascinated by K-beauty, the amount of R&D that is invested in it, the collaboration between the government and the private sector. I find something that we Kenyans need to, we need to borrow a leaf from this. It's something that I keep on talking to Korean companies to say, the African market is a huge market for you. Don't think that because our complexion, again, back to also the stereotypes, is different. We have acne, we have wrinkles, we have all the same challenges that maybe, our skin is not that smooth, but we also have beautiful skin. This is a market that is just sitting and waiting. Delve into it. The ginseng. I have a shot of ginseng every day. I went to a ginseng festival a few months ago, and I got all the raw ginseng, which I've been making. I've been boiling it and making it into, and it's nice and sweet, and it's a nice tea. So I don't know that I will at 80 look like your people. They look like, Koreans just don't age. But there's something you're doing right that I want to explore. We need to bring some of this ginseng into Africa. We need to bring more K-beauty into Africa. We need to start having the Koreans use some of the products, because you also like using healthy and new products. The baobab, for instance. Coconut wasn't a big thing before. Now everybody's talking about coconut. Just like pomegranates. These shea butter, for instance, using more of these natural whole products and mainstreaming them into yours as you begin to globalize this fantastic array of beauty products that you have. So I'm like a child in the candy store. And I do want to learn to make kimchi. Because, some of my African colleagues laugh at me, but I love kimchi. I buy kimchi. Most of us will just eat kimchi if it's available at the restaurant. But I actually buy kimchi. I love kimchi. And I know that, there's a lot of effort into recruiting us to go on these tours that teach us how to make kimchi. Unfortunately, and to my dismay, I've just not been able to do it yet. This year, 2023, I will go on some of these tours and I will master the art. Thank you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year coming up. Happy New Year 2023. And thank you so much for taking the time to come to the Kenyan Embassy and to give us the time to have a couple words with you.